All right, everyone. Congress tried to file a joint resolution off in order to stop Trump from securing the southern border. It's interesting because every administration since Reagan, Republican and Democrat, has sounded exactly like Trump and promised the same things Trump has promised. Each time to great applause, usually bipartisan applause. Oh, yeah, defend the border, protect our way of life, protect the United States. Somehow, the moment Trump got elected, this became racist and evil. And we're no longer allowed to tackle the southern border problem because we have to see pictures of children in a cage that Obama had built for them. That's basically what's happened. He's vetoed this joint resolution. It passed with flying colors in the House and Senate. Thankfully, though, not by a veto-proof majority, so this will stand, his veto. That means that he can go forth. The courts couldn't stop him. The never-Trumpers within the party raising hell couldn't stop him. Mueller couldn't stop him. And now this stupid joint resolution couldn't stop him. I find it funny that one of the few pieces of bipartisan legislation that we've seen passed in the last 2 years, that the Republicans and Democrats in the House and Senate could both come to terms with, had nothing to do with trying to improve the country, just trying to stymie an attempt to secure our border. I find that very, very funny. And I also find it alarming and sad because it's exactly the same legislation that was promised, proposed, and initially fronted by Bush, by Clinton, by Herbert Walker Bush, and by Ronald Reagan. I don't think Obama ever fronted that specifically. He never got down to it because of Boehner obstruction. But essentially it said the same thing when running. The first time around, he sounded exactly like Trump when he was running in the 2008 election. Well, we want immigrants here, but they need to come in the right way. No, people who have come here illegally, absolutely, they need to go. We need to deport them. Trump has consistently won on this issue. The Republicans are so dumb when they don't understand you have a mandate from the majority of the U.S. population to secure the border. Now, this can definitely include a component of rational help for those who have come here, like before Safe Third Country existed, which was fairly recently, giving some sort of status to people who sought asylum, who qualified at the time, who don't now, to allow them to stay if they've already been here for an extended period. You know, they've learned the lingo, they're trying to do a good job. Get them into conditional residency somehow so that they can work their way towards citizenship if that's indeed what they want. That's fine. And it's fine to tackle the issue of DACA recipients. But it's not fine to act like because those are difficult, you can't tackle the problem of the physically porous border. Because then, even if you solve all those other problems, the border is still an issue. Reagan came very close to solving this issue when the Stimson-Mazzoli Act was signed. It gave residency to millions of people. It improved border facilities. It did a plethora of things, and it was largely designed in a conservative manner. It was a decent proposal. The one thing that it lacked was border protection. Bush attempted this. Bush fronted all sorts of wide-sweeping changes to the U.S. border, largely, by the way, prefaced on national security post 9/11. The idea of the electronic wall that Democrats at the time thought was ludicrous is exactly the same proposal they have repackaged word for word to use as a justification for not wanting a physical wall now. They've literally taken Bush's own e-wall proposal for a new generation, pretended it was theirs and didn't come from W of all people, and they're trying to sell it to the Democrats, and they've had some success at doing so. Bush tried to implement that and say, well, we need to expand the physical barriers that are there. We need to catch more people. And we also need electronic monitoring because he was big into spying on people. Really what it's about is he wanted to be able to tap all the phone conversations within 50 miles of the border, probably. It's probably what it was basically about. He failed. Democrats balked. Some of the Republicans balked at the cost. And so it never got built. Donald Trump comes in. He says, look, we've got a massive number of Republicans in the House. Obviously can tackle the issue. Senate's run, at least narrowly, by Republicans. Give me a few $1 billion. Let me solve the problem. It's not even that difficult. It's a fairly easily solved problem because the overall budget is so much more vast than the tiny amount that it takes to build the wall. They wouldn't give him the money. They cut him a shitty deal that he only signs on to because it allows him to grandstand. By the way, it was the right decision to sign off on that deal. Neocon as though it was at the time. He then turns around and says, well, there's a national emergency. I'm taking Pentagon money for it. The courts couldn't stop him. Congress didn't stop him at the time, and they can't stop him now. Good. Finally, this problem maybe will be solved. Maybe a generation from now, we won't have to have a national conversation about the border because it will actually be a functional barrier at the border. instead of a little chain link fence and a jeep going by every 20 days or so to look for all of the bodies that have been left there by cartels, there will actually be a border wall. It'll be monitored, it'll be staffed, and we'll have better, more humane surroundings for those that do attempt to cross illegally that get detained. And there'll be a safe third country that we can fund indirectly and directly in order to take on legitimate asylum seekers from South and Central America. There's no reason they have to physically be here. The idea that we can save everybody in the world, take everyone in the world, and everything will be glorious utopia forever is no different in spirit than the idea of world policing. The idea that if we go overseas and intervene, we can magically make everything better for everyone. We can't. The neocons and the Democrats that want us to squat in Syria and get shot at for no reason are using the same logic as the same scumbags here in the United States, not here physically at the moment, that don't want the border to be solved. They don't want a border. If some of these people are literally campaigning on eliminating the wall that's there, Beto has explicitly stated, and he's not a lowest tier Dem candidate, he's running at 3-4%. He has literally stated that if he was elected, he would just wipe out the wall entirely. There wouldn't be even a fence. Go across as you please. Go and get ice cream in Monterey and then walk back across. Perfectly fine with Beto O'Rourke. Cartel activity aside, doesn't give a fuck about it. Doesn't care about terrorism. Might as well just form the NAU at that point. At the very least, we'd have nominal control by manpower alone. Might as well just absorb all of North America into one superstate. Why don't we just rival Russia in size for a change and say fuck off to the Eastern Bloc and just take over all of North America? Okay, I'm hip with that so long as it's a real representative republic. Not that it would be at that point, sadly enough, because of all the socialists that would be involved. Then you have Warren. Keep in mind, this is the Dem frontrunner. Oh, I would decriminalize illegal border crossings. Yeah, there'd be no repercussions for countries. Well, then why wouldn't everyone in Central and South America make the journey? I'm sitting there, I'm in Guyana, I'm in Brazil or something. I can sit there and I can make $500 a month, or I can walk across the border and I can make that in a week to start just by picking apples or something. Fuck you, I'm not staying in those countries. I'm going to come to the United States. Only then the economy won't be able to support the level of growth that it's experiencing because we don't have enough empty land to have another Homestead Act unless those Democrats are going to say, tear down the national forest. You want to get rid of all the state parks and forests and turn them into suburban lots? Then we can make it work. Yeah, we could absorb another 100 million people. Too bad there'd be not a fucking tree left in the country, but I guess that's the dystopian, hellish future the Democrats and the neocons really want. They don't care because they'll be in a penthouse somewhere. And they can always go bye-bye and go to one of the other countries they've got a business in. They can immigrate at any time. They don't have a problem because they're rich. See, they're NIMBYers. They're the rich version of the suburban NIMBYer that doesn't want they want the new prison, but not in their block. They want the treatment facility, but not in their town. They want the new landfill. They just don't want it to be within smelling distance. And they definitely want green energy, but not on their home, not on their lawn, and not anywhere within the visible spectrum where they happen to live. That's basically what these people are. Human scumbags. So thankfully, Trump has vetoed this joint resolution, and I hope he stands firm and builds the wall. It's about time. Go ahead and be as merciful as you want on every other issue. DACA, asylum seekers prior to safe third country. Go ahead and do that. You can have that conversation, but you can't even begin to discuss those things without taking care of the border itself physically. That's about all. Peace out.